AI is great at summarizing a 10Q or 10K. Use it to ask some questions and get yourself started. It may not get you 100% of the way there, but what if it gets you 80% and saves you a day?
Have you started using ChatGPT and these other AI platforms? Like the last year, I can't tell you how often I use them. They're so powerful. I mean, a little bit on personal stuff. I use it at work stuff all the time. Incredibly powerful for saving time. Basic stuff like take this email and make it more professional, simple stuff like that, competitive analysis. And I don't know about you, but I'm finding 98% accuracy. I ask it questions and I read through it. Say, okay, I just saved myself 10 hours and it probably has one little mistake in it I can fix. So what about you on your side? You using it a lot?
Yeah, I definitely use it quite a bit. I mean, I have a subscription to Copilot, to ChatGPT, and to Claude. So, I'm definitely using all three. I use Claude a lot for summarizing my podcasts because I used to go back and rewatch them to write my post and to come up with things. And now I just get the summary. I have it give me key quotes, give me the key takeaways, write the article, and then I just go through and edit it. I rarely have to go back to the transcript. Occasionally I will because I know they said something about this, or I don't like that. What exactly did they say? But it saves me. I mean, it reduces it probably from, an hour and a half I was spending to 15, 20 minutes. It's a great time saver. So that's one area I use it a lot. I've used it in analysis. Today I was using AI to try to see how it did on creating clips from a podcast. There's a lot of tools out there, and I was just kind of testing it this morning. So definitely use it quite a bit. Excel formulas, it's great. If you can't remember the syntax for something, just ask it. As long as it's not a brand new formula, it will tell you exactly how to write it.
I will not be using it for Excel formulas, but I use
I
it for
figured
so
you'd
many other
probably say
things.
that.
That my team would laugh at me if I pulled out ChatGPT and started asking it Excel formulas. But
Well, you should do that just to see what they do. Like, wait,
well,
is
I
it
mean,
April 1st?
now you say it, maybe I'll wow them and get some new funky formula and say, hey, your H lookup looks like you forgot to put the index formula inside it. So
Well, good luck. Let me know how that treats you. I'll be curious to see what you end up with.
probably not well.
So you had mentioned in your LinkedIn bio that you love setting visions and strategy, that those are two things you love doing. What is it you love about that? Why those elements?
I think the heart of it, it's fun is the simple word. It's super enjoyable to get involved in strategy and vision. I think part of it after doing my MBA, I got a lot more exposure, a lot more readings to that side. And it's incredible to see something come together. And it's neat in FP&A, usually doing analytics, bringing recommendation on certain parts of a business. But if you could start with setting the vision strategy, or maybe you're more junior in your career, or maybe it's just a brand, maybe it's a division of business, you get more senior, the whole company. If you can set a strategy and a corporate direction, have the leadership to have your team follow you, and then bring analytics to back it up and make recommendations on the way. So powerful. I was using the Delisio example before, a little bit of setting strategies along the way and bringing analysis and bringing it together. So it's fun. It brings together, I find, a lot of my education from school, because you can bring in marketing, HR, sales, finance, bring it all together, bring a corporate strategy in. I used to challenge my teams, even if they had a team of 2 or 3 people. I'm like, build a strategy for your team. Like, why would I do that? I'm like, because you're practicing. Because one day you're going to have to build a vision for a team of 40, a team of 100. And then one day you're going to have to bring a corporate strategy forward for a whole organization. So practice it on smaller things wherever you can. So ultimately, it's super fun. Like, I love the fundamental SWOT and PEST and Porter, whiteboarding it, getting thoughts down, and then taking all these thoughts and saying, how do I get this down into 2 or 3 sentences that we're going to get out to organization in a simple message.
I love that. And I love the examples you gave for, employees of, hey, set a strategy for your team. Think about a vision. Because if you learn to do that early in your career, it's going to benefit you as you move up the chain. Like you said, the more senior you get, the more you're going to have opportunities to work on vision and strategy, and the more important it's going to become.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I challenge people all the time, practice on junior stuff. I mean, the other thing I talk to people a lot about is one way to practice that is, let's say you're in a bank or a big multinational company or a food industry and you're more junior, so it's a little hard to get involved.
Sure.
What I did early in my career was I got on board work outside of my company, generally in non-for-profit when you're starting out. What's amazing, and that could be anything from your daycare, your church, your sports organization, or other sort of volunteer organization, is you go from being a junior analyst on a massive company to being a board chair, a treasurer on maybe $100,000 business. But what's amazing about that is you can set the strategy for that company and you can practice those skills. You can give back. And even though it might be your daycare and maybe the budget's, $1 million, you're like, but I'm setting the corporate strategy. I'm building the CEO's compensation plan, all the stuff that might take you 30 years later to get to when you're running Coke one day. But it's one advice I like to give people is get volunteer board work, because you're doing this in your day job when you're early in your career, and find a way to practice this. So as you move up, you can steal those experiences along the way.
That is really good advice. I like the idea of board work. When I was in grad school, I competed in some strategy case competition. I loved doing that. Although, to remember, you didn't get to bed till 3, 4 in the morning, then you're back up at 7, and you're just like, okay, can I do a good presentation on 2 hours of sleep? But
Love case competitions. I mean, that's the other advice I give people is around education. How do you keep your education going? I found my MBA super valuable, just from a strategic landscape, more courses, more theories, deeper into porters and pests and all that sort of stuff, and tools you could bring forward. So how do you bring your job experience, your education, and hopefully some outside work as well? Case competitions. Oh, that was an amazing experience.
I love doing them and agree. The team aspect, the collaboration, the learning, but in a real kind of, pressure, low risk pressure environment. Like, right? What's the worst that happens from a risk standpoint? The judge doesn't like what you presented.
Yeah.
You move on. It's not like you actually have to guide a company. And if you do the wrong thing, you could, a bunch of people could be laid off.
Yeah. Yeah. Love those experiences.
So I'm going to kind of go back here a little bit. You talked about how we need to reduce the amount of time we spend on planning, right? The 80 should be on the analytics. So as you look back over your career, any advice on how we can better manage the budget process? What should companies be doing in your opinion to shorten that time frame to get to be able to spend more time on analytics?
Great question. I asked so many of my industry peers that question, and there's just no gold standard model. I found all my years, Pepsi seemed to do it the best. A couple examples of some stuff they did, but some concrete advice. So things I like saying to people is, and this is, I don't want to say controversial, but not everyone agrees. I love really condensing the time frame, because I find, you used the example earlier, a 6-month budget cycle. The problem when you plan budgets over 6 months is the base change. So many things change and you got to reset everything. How do you say, listen, we're locking ourselves down for 2 months. We're going to go hard, set a budget, come out. So I like compressed timelines. I really like doing a budget once, doing a really good job once a year. Nestle kind of ran often more of a rolling forecast. So you're updating it frequently. I really like that one time, try and do it right as possible in the 80-20 rule, and then move on. I love, and I've done this so many different ways, and there's no perfect way, but you need that mix of top down and bottom up. So you need your executive team doing a really good job of a top down budget. So listen, guys, we're trying to grow sales at 3%, profit 2x, cash flow at Y. Here's the constraints, a couple key assumptions. We want inflation played here, this plan there. And then you need to drive empowerment in your team to build a bottom up budget, because you want ultimately the empowerment to come through the team. Now, ideally, the two of them match, and then you have all your cost centers that tie to your top down, your bottom up, and they built the bottom up, you built the top down, and everything works, and it never works out perfectly. But that would be the perfect budget, a bottom up where everyone's involved, they're empowered to set their own things, building their own assumptions, and it matches to a top down. Shareholders are asking for X or corporate strategies Y, and they all match up. But invariably, you've got a couple tough meetings in the middle where you've got to push some teams a little more, do things a little differently. But those are probably some of the big things. Compressed timelines, use your planning system. I like using it once, maybe twice max, and then get into Excel. So I really like Excel for high level R&Os. You're 3 months into your year, go into Excel, do an R&O, or, we have 5 million upside on sales, 2 million upside on profit. Here's the couple drivers. Make sure everyone agrees. Don't go back and put that in your planning system again. Don't do a bottom up by SKU. Keep everyone out of that. Think about that F, A, and P. And it's always a trade-off when you're a non-finance professional. It's easy to say, okay, finance team, go do another bottom-up build. I want to get that to the exact dollar. The trade-off is you're taking all those resources away from people that could be doing analytics to drive the business. So have faith. You've got a good budget. You can do an R&O and get it plus or minus in Excel, and then free up everyone's time to do analytics to drive the business. So that's a couple ideas on budgeting.
Yeah, I appreciate the advice. Yeah, everybody's gonna have a different opinion, but I can understand the compressed. I often think it's too long. Bottoms up is great. I love when you said the ideal is when they match. I can't say I've experienced them matching.
No,
But
never match.
that's the dream for all of us, right? To get that bottoms up done and the board. Yep, looks good, all done.
I don't think it's ever matched for me. I've certainly had examples where it's close enough and you tweak. I always find you got to do the top down first, and you let the organization know, listen, we're trying to get back to shareholders with this plan. If you're in this range, we're talking. If you're planning something completely different, we have a big problem here. And then come tell me early in the process. Okay, you set a 5% sales growth target. I'm looking at -2. We need a meeting right away, not at the end of planning to say we have a big gap. Early conversations back and forth. So hopefully you get to a 5% top down, a 4% bottom up, and then you can, tweak.
Couldn't agree more with those conversations. Bring issues early. Have an idea of what's expected when you start. I had one year with the business where they wouldn't give us any numbers, like just build it all up and then see if it comes back at the end. And we had to cut everything across everybody, based on a top-down approach, and nobody recognized their numbers. And it was just a nightmare. It always is when that happens.
Everyone's lived through that. They go build it and come back and show me, and someone says, I don't agree. You got to give some guardrails at least. This is the sandbox you can play in. The other thing I really like doing is portfolio management. So it works in the food industry or works everywhere to say, okay, let's put all of our brands, or if you're in the banking industry, our banking products in a grid of what's growing and what's making the most money, and therefore what do we want to promote. So if you have brands in this category, you're more likely to get more marketing budget, more CapEx spending. If you're a divest brand or a hold on to brand, don't bring a reco to bring your advertising up. We're not going to give it to you. Don't ask for CapEx to build an innovation on a new SKU. It's not going to happen. So I think your strategy team's got to do a good job of saying to all the business units, here's where you fit into the master story. You guys are a hold, you're a grow, you're a divest, you're an invest brand.
Yep. No, I hear you. I think that's great advice for every brand to kind of understand. Here's how we're thinking about you strategically. Here's your framework you need to operate in, because it saves you so much time if you know up front versus guessing.
Yeah, that should be strategy at FP&A along with the strategy department and marketing, putting that together.